Welcome back to Tug Life Alaska. In this episode, I fly back to Yakutat to start working on my 26-foot Nordic tug, the Sherry Lynn, that I purchased for $1,000. In this episode, we'll take a full tour of the boat, work on the electrical system, unbox some tools and supplies from Amazon, pressure wash the exterior, and change the fluids and filters on the engine, transmission, and fuel systems. So fly along with me as I return to Yakutat and get the Sherry Lynn a few steps closer to being ready for her voyage across the Gulf to Prince William Sound, then home to Seward. Alright, do a quick walk around of the boat here. Gonna get the lay of the land, see what we're gonna work on first thing tomorrow. One thing I definitely want to do is go underneath and make sure I know where all of the through holes are. Anything to do with engine cooling, water for any drains, sinks, all that. I'd also like to find a pressure washer, get everything cleaned up as best I can for the journey. I'll go through and make sure this rudder and everything will turn somewhat freely. I know I need to flush the steering inside and get that all cleaned up. So I suspect we've got some inlets and sea strainers over on this side of the boat. Alright, heading up on deck. So I think one thing for sure I'd like to start with tomorrow is just generally cleaning up everything, just to make it look a little more manageable. So get anything off the boat that doesn't need to be here. Hoses, hydraulics, anything that's on these hay racks, strings, whatnot, get all that cleaned off and removed to make things easier to navigate. Probably open up all of these holds if the weather's decent tomorrow. Get those cleaned out because there will be things probably stored in them. Probably some ice at minimum. Get all the lines cleaned up. That's an easy thing that I can do just to kind of start with an easy win. I think Devin is planning to hang on to these girdies, so we'll pull those off and set them on the ground for him. If he doesn't want them, we'll hang on to them, possibly to be reinstalled in the future, but I kind of doubt we're going to have any of this hydraulic equipment on board once it's set up just for personal use, trolling. Heading inside. Again, we'll just do some cleanup tomorrow, although he's already done a fair amount before we bought the boat. He did go through and get a lot of things pulled out of here, so it's an empty shell for sure. But yeah, things like the steering, not getting any response right now from the steering, so that certainly needs to be at minimum bled out and cleaned out and serviced, possibly new seals on the Sea Star in the back. Turn the light on for you. Head down into the V berth. Very sparse, definitely not much as far as creature comforts, but place to put some stuff, place to roll out a thermarest. I brought a moving pad with me that we'll put down first, thermarest, and then sleeping bags and pillows to hopefully make the journey. Well, we do have the life ring, which is kind of cool. Small locker in here. We can go through that tomorrow and see what goodies we find. The head is completely demoed out, and it looks like the pump out has already been capped off, so we'll investigate that, see, make sure that doesn't need any further work. We do have 2 functional portholes, which is nice. We can get a little airflow when we're underway. You know, surprisingly, a lot of this woodwork is not in terrible shape. It certainly needs a lot of cleaning and a lot of varnish, but some of it can be salvaged and reused. Bulkheads are damp, but in place. We also, tomorrow on the list is to find a couple of temporary seats to go in here. So maybe something out of a small car, one that we can put here, for the navigator, and one that we can put at the helm, and definitely, oh, the helm actually has a built-in footrest, so that's nice. But yeah, we certainly need more than just the dining room cushion for a 30+ hour journey across the Gulf. I'd also like to put some temporary power on this Raymarine, see if we get anything out of that. I've also got a little inverter, and I brought an additional inverter. We'll play around with that, see if we get any response. But yeah, she needs a lot of love. So, all right, got some goodies to open. Over the past couple months, I've been ordering some stuff off of Amazon, so let's see what we got. I know what this is. This is the new impeller cover, screws, and O-ring, so we'll save this for another video. That is happening very soon. Alright, got some original OEM Yanmar. Is it Yanmar or Yanmar? Anyway, original oil filters, because we're going to do an oil change before we run the boat, and then we'll do another oil change before we take off. This is a nice little mini heat gun. That'll be nice for doing electrical work on the boat. Very similar to the one my brother Blake has in Hawaii. Infrared thermometer. I thought this would be handy when we get the boat in the water, so that we can keep an eye on the temps, see what's happening there. Nothing fancy, just a little handheld infrared that can check in on engine temps and exhaust temps as we go. That's cool. Got a little basic bilge pump. Can't ever have too many bilge pump, automatic. So we'll get that wired in and plumbed in, just kind of as a backup, since I don't really know the condition of the current ones. Let's see what we got here. Oh, 14 gauge, 100-foot marine wiring. So for all kinds of things, we're going to need to run some power to VHF radios, lights, all of that kind of good stuff. We got a nice full spool. And I figured, when in Alaska, a nice Rainier beer. Nothing wrong with that. By the way, this is our workshop setup this week while we're staying at Candy's house. She's been nice enough to give us a little corner of her garage where we can go through and check out what all we got here. All right, we're back. Automotive circuit tester. Shout out to Andrew Camerata. He's the first person I ever saw using one of these. I've never used one, so it's going to take a little bit to figure out, but pretty straightforward. It's kind of like a test light, but what's nice is you can actually hook these leads up to the battery, so you get positive, negative battery terminal. Test probe, which obviously will tell you voltage, but what's nice is you can send voltage to your probe, so you can send positive or negative to test if things have a ground, or if they have any power going to them, or if they don't, you can add power and see if that corrects it. Then you know you've got an issue with your wiring. So I know that's going to be handy to have. Box of solder seal electrical connections. That'll be nice for making up wires for different devices on the boat. Pretty cool. Again, something that Blake has in Hawaii, and I really like working with him. And we've got a 64-piece 3/8 impact socket set. So I just wanted to start fresh for the boat with a full standard and metric socket set. So 64-piece should go a long way. Comes in this nice durable case, and the plan is for this to stay on the boat. So that's cool. All right. Box number 2. This one's a little lighter, but I'm sure there's some cool stuff in here. Gotta love Amazon. All right, rechargeable spotlight. Always wanted one of these. Remember the old million candle power lights? Kind of what I was thinking. Oh, with a little red lens too, so when we're out on the boat, we won't blind each other. Nice and bright. Comes with a USB charging cord. Not currently charged, of course, so we'll take this guy in tonight and get him all charged up. Even got a little stand. So that's cool. I think that'll come in handy. What else? Oh, wire ties. These have a little 3M adhesive base that you can stick anywhere, and then just a zip tie that holds the wire to the base. And yeah, since we're going to be definitely doing some temporary wiring, I thought this would come in handy not only for this week, but just in the future to be able to keep wires as neat and tidy as possible. What do we got here? Propane adapter, so we can take a 10-pound or a 5-pound bottle, 5-gallon, whatever it is, for our buddy heater, which is what we'll have on board in case we need some heat in the cabin next week. That was cheap, like 12 bucks. Figured it'd be nice to just get a big propane bottle. I'm sure that's not going to be cheap, but I think that'll be handy. And finally, I believe this is our hydraulic steering bleeder kit, and it is. So that is definitely on the list for this week, to get that system bled out and see if we can figure out what's going on with it. I believe that that attaches to a oil bottle and allows you to feed. Normally it's like an automatic transmission fluid or some kind of hydraulic fluid, something like that. But we'll get that system nice and flushed out. And I've also got 20 feet of additional reinforced braided vinyl hose that we can run. I've watched a couple YouTube videos on how to drain those systems, so hopefully that makes me qualified to take care of that. We'll take our light in tonight. We'll get him all charged up. We'll get the batteries in our little handy infrared thermometer. Definitely take the bilge pump on down to the boat so it can be ready to go. Our oil filters, we need to source some good quality oil for the diesel as well as an extraction pump. I think Devin, the guy who sold me the boat, has one, and he's offered to let me borrow it, so we'll get that from him. And what else are we missing? That's everything in the Amazon box, so that's cool. We do also have, I'll take you out of the stand here, our Furman generator. Oh, there's some nice extension cords Candy said we could borrow. Put that in, guys. So I'm going to pop this guy out of the box. This is our 2000 watt, 1600 continuous, but that should be plenty for our needs. Inverter generator. Picked that up from Bill Bailey. Thanks, Bill. New in the box, so I was able to ship it down here to Yakutat on air cargo. That worked out perfectly. Got a couple other items in the tote, one of which is a propane or a butane cook stove. We've got a Mr. Buddy heater in there, and we've also got a heated seat cover, like out of a car, which I thought would be nice on the crossing. So we'll have that wired up and ready, as long as our alternator can handle. It's a lot of power for those things, but I think as long as we're not burning a lot of other electronics, and or we may have to run our generator to supplement. But depending on the temperature, right now it's really nice. I don't foresee that being an issue, but I'm an Eagle Scout, so be prepared. All right, I've been tinkering around with the steering. I got a little bleeder system set up here, thanks to a couple of YouTube videos. And this particular steering unit has a fluid reservoir, or is supposed to have one, so I'm going to have to rig something up basically like what I have here, only obviously a little more permanent. But it may very well just be a bottle like this with this connection on it. So I'll bring you in so you can see what we're working with. $12 a quart, by the way, for some off-brand ATF, which C-Star says not to use, but I'm guessing it has been used in 99% of the boats here, so we will flush that out later. But anyway, can't quite get rid of this one little air bubble right here, so I think I'm going to enjoy a Rainier beer and hopefully let that air bubble work its way out so I can keep on working with it. But the good news is the rudder is turning, so we now have steering. So definitely a big win for the day. That, along with getting a lot of the electrical cleaned up. I'll come in tomorrow and probably start sorting through some of that, get the oil changed, get the impeller in. So things are definitely looking up for day 2 back in Yakutat for tug life here in the Yakutat boatyard. Shout out to Clint for checking in earlier. It was good to hear from some friends back in Seward. Heather too. Good morning. It's day 3 in Yakutat. Just left the Yakutat City landfill. Wanted to get some information about disposing of some old diesel fuel, and was also able to pick up a couple of front seats out of an old Subaru Outback, so that I can sort of temporarily install those into the boat and make it just a little bit more comfortable for the trip over. So rather than buying some kind of seats and dealing with all that, I just said, hey, go grab some free seats out of the boat, or I'm sorry, out of the Subaru, and we'll figure out some basic platforms for them to get them into the boat. So we're gonna be cruising for a good 30 hours or so, and want to be comfortable along the way. Met a nice guy named Sonny that worked at the landfill. He was very familiar with Sherry Lynn, which was kind of neat. And he had a lot of good things to say, which was very reassuring. He was very familiar with the boat. He'd run the boat, and he knew that it was in pretty good condition when it was taken out of the water, or at least the motor was running well when it was taken out of the water, so that's good. Asked him some questions about how to dispose of the old fuel, and he was very helpful with some information there. So the plan for the day is I'm getting ready to stop by the hardware store. This will be hardware store trip number 1. Yesterday I think I went 3 times, so 3 a day is not bad. I will look at a couple of things for some lighting, because I definitely want to make sure we have good lighting in the cabin for the trip over, and just kind of get a feel for what they have as far as any electrical needs. Then I will head back to the boat. I'm also looking for a pressure washer. I'm going to ask them about the possibility of that. I saw they had one on the front porch. I don't know if that's available for rental or if that's just for sort of employee use. So sorry, got a guy pulling in and we're not sure what each other's doing here. Anyway, great start to the morning. Beautiful day, beautiful weather here in Yakutat today, which is a nice change of scenery from yesterday. It was dumping rain for just about the entire day, and now it's nice and sunny. Back down to a t-shirt and no rain gear. So here we go, hardware trip number 1 for day 3 in Yakutat. All right, do a little cleanup just to get things looking a little nicer. Get rid of all this autopilot stuff for now. right, it's a big day. We have a pressure washer. Shout out to Yakutat Hardware, by the way. These guys are awesome. Definitely not a cheap place to shop, but there's nothing cheap in Yakutat. So yeah, it's time to rinse down the outside of the Sherry Lynn here and get her looking a little spiffier. Thursday morning, 4th day here, and I am well underway here with some much needed maintenance here on board the Sherry Lynn. So let me spin you around here. What I'm working on right now, by the way, this fluid suction pump extractor, whatever you call it, is a game changer. This one was pretty expensive because I forgot to order one on Amazon before I got here, but either way, I'm supporting the local economy, Yakutat Hardware, which is a really awesome business, by the way. So the way this works is this pump, it's kind of the opposite of like a garden sprayer, which puts pressure into the tank. This one actually creates a vacuum, and then I've got this hose that I run down, and right now what I'm doing is pulling out all the old fluid out of the transmission, which this is basically the only way I can think of to get the fluid out, would be to use something similar to this device. I did the same thing to remove the engine oil, which was very easy to do, and so yeah, I'm just kind of in fluid zone right now, trying to get as much as I can changed out. I also forgot to order this secondary fuel filter, but I think I have a plan to get a couple of those down here before we potentially take off next week. So just working through, like I said, some much needed maintenance, making sure that we start off on the right foot with the engine oil, the transmission fluid, the filters. I did locate the water separator filter, which is right back here, if you can see it on that back wall. That is definitely something that I'm going to relocate because it is very tough to get to, and so that means that it probably doesn't get serviced as often as it needs to. Anything on a boat, I've found, if it's hard to get to or hard to do, you're less likely to do it. So just like I relocated the battery into this compartment, I'm not sure that that's a long-term solution, but I want to have as few things as possible down here in the engine bay that you know, can get wet, that can move around, and that's difficult to access. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this video, and even more disappointing, the weather just doesn't look good for a crossing anytime in the near future. In case you're not a meteorologist, this forecast does not look like fun in the Gulf of Alaska. I had more than a few Yakutat locals suggest that I wait until spring to make the trip, or find a way to get the Sherry Lynn on a barge or ferry to Prince William Sound. All in all, it was a successful week in Yakutat, getting some much needed maintenance and cleanup done on board. I'll be that much closer to having her ready to splash when the time comes. With what little time I had left, I did get out and enjoy some of the scenery around Yakutat, including Cannon Beach, and I look forward to seeing more on my next trip. In the meantime, I hope you'll continue to follow this journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe.